What's up, Falcon fans? On today's episode, I'll be breaking down my predictions for the upcoming 2024 Atlanta Falcons roster moves. If you guys like this type of content, hit that like button. If you guys hate this type of content, hit that dislike button. It will hurt your boy's feelings. Well, maybe just a little bit. But if you want to do a huge favor for your boy, hit that subscribe button. It will help out the empire grow. So on that note, let's just dive into the video. Who will be released, who will we get in the free agency market, and who will we resign. But first, let's start out with the overview players that we have under contract right now. As it stands right now, we have 18 total players under contract for the offense side of the ball. Our offensive line is pretty much intact, so that's a really positive thing. Our tight end room is still intact besides Michael Pruitt, who's going to be hitting the free agency market. But besides that, you still have Kyle Pitts, who had almost 700 receiving yards, and Jonnu Smith almost had 600 receiving yards. And the good thing about this is that I've been listening and reading a bunch of Rams articles about how Sean McVay really liked to use the two tight end sets. That really is a plus for the Atlanta Falcons. And when it comes to the running back committee, we all know that Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier are both studs. And now we're getting back Avery Williams that tore his ACL from last year, and hopefully he's healthy to come back. So now let's look at the glaring needs that the Atlanta Falcons need to address this season. Now, obviously, quarterback is definitely number one major issue for any organization if they don't have a franchise quarterback. And then compared to us, wide receiving core, definitely we have only two wide receivers so far under contract. That's Drake London and Josh Ali. We need to change that immediately. So now let's talk about the overview for the defensive side of the ball. Let's start out with our secondary. Straight out of the bag, we have a really strong secondary besides our number 2 corner on the right side of the field. But besides that, we have a really tight unit in the free safety in Jesse Bates III, who should have been first All-Pro, me personally. Then you have Richie Grant, who had a pretty solid season, some good games and then some bad games. But then, of course, you got AJ Terrell, who's been up and down a little bit, but still he's a shutdown corner. Don't ever disrespect his name. And then, of course, you got the nickel and D. Alford, and then, of course, then Mike Hughes as well, both really good at what they do. And then of course you got the rookie Clark Phillips III, who did a really good down and shut down anybody that was in his direction. So fantastic job. So now let's talk about the front seven. No question about it, Grady Jarrett is the heart and soul of this Atlanta Falcons defense. Unfortunately, he suffered a torn ACL during the Tennessee Titans game loss. And without him, it was so obvious where the opposing running back were running all over us, usually averaging 120 plus yards per game. But when he was on the field, that was not happening. But hopefully he comes back 100% healthier. But we also have David Otamata, who was a fantastic D-line guy. And then of course you got Zach Harris, did a pretty good job at the end of the season as a rookie. And then you got some nice other two pieces. And also you got Tycon Graham, who came back from injury from last year. And then when it comes to the linebacking core, oh yeah, we got some stud in Caden Ellis, who's fantastic pickup from the New Orleans Saints. And then of course you got the third year now young buck and Arnold Ebiketie, who has been really good getting after the quarterback with 6 sacks so far. Now he got a lot of quarterback pressures and a lot of quarterback hits. He just needs to really connect with the quarterback, but he's definitely on the right track. And then of course you got Carter, who's been a veteran and has been pretty decent as a backup. And now it's going to be very interesting on how Raheem Moore is going to use Troy Anderson to his full potential. That's going to be very fascinating because I don't know if they're going to make him a starter or not, or just a backup. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Adetokunbo Ogundeji, and I don't know what's going to happen with him. So now let's talk about who should the Falcons re-sign and let go. For this upcoming re-signing for the offense of the ball, my philosophy is go cheap because you want to spend your money in the free agency market and then for the NFL draft. So, that being said, Kadary Hodge, definitely re-sign him back to a 1-year extension. He's been really good with the Atlanta Falcons for 2 years so far. His all receiving yards in total been over 200 plus each time he's been with the Atlanta Falcons. So when it comes to Van Jefferson's situation, in the beginning, I say let him walk. But since we got Raheem Morris and then we got the offensive coordinator in Zach Robertson, because he's been with the Rams ever since 2019, and then Jefferson was drafted in the second round in 2020 and played 4 years with the Rams and did a pretty good solid job. Now obviously his best career was in 2021. We had over 800 receiving yards, 50 receptions, and 6 total touchdowns to boot. So I feel like Robertson can really utilize him like the Rams did back then, and so I feel like that's a good chemistry. So that's why I say we sign him to a 1-year contract. So when it comes to CP, the Joker, whatever you want to call him, you could put him in a wide receiver position, a running back position, fullback position. Doesn't matter. You need to bring him back for one more year because he definitely is a morale boost. So when it comes to the players we should not resign, it's very obvious in my mind. Raheem can easily find his own tackles that fit his scheme when it comes to the run game and the pass protection game as well, even though those guys also might be backups as well. But you better get your own backups that fit your own scheme, so they're very replaceable, not a big deal. So when it comes to Michael Pruitt, unfortunately he's at the wrong age of over 30, and he played 2 good years with us, and believe me, I was advocated last year to resign him back, and so I'm thankful for the 2 years he's been with us, and I wish him the best of luck. But unfortunately at this time and juncture we don't need him. So when it comes to the fullback position and Keith Smith, that's a very interesting story. I've been reading a bunch of articles. Does the Rams offense use fullbacks? They don't, but they do at the same time, so I'm very conflicted. But unfortunately I think Keith Smith is over 30 plus years old, and they might want to go younger at this point in time, but I do appreciate his contributions. Of course, Logan Woodside is out because that's the Arthur Smith guy. And then for Matt Hennessy, I liked him, but he just hasn't been what I was hoping he would be, when we drafted him out of Temple. And of course, Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller, those will probably be the most 2 debatable things that the fan base will disagree with me. Now, I understand for Scotty Miller, he's been lost in the depth chart twice by 2 different teams, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and by the Atlanta Falcons. And also, he does not get targeted a lot, unfortunately, when he's on the field. Now, he has all the tools in the tool shed to become a really great slot receiver because he does have the speed, and he showed out what he can do with that speed if you give him the right play calling. But unfortunately, at this point in junction, you could easily replace him with another guy. And then for Mac Hollins, I really like him, what he did with the Oakland Raiders, Oakland. I meant to say Las Vegas, but I feel like for what Raheem Morris is going to do with this offense, especially with the wide receiving core, I don't think it's going to fit Mac Hollins' wide receiver skill sets. That's all. So now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. This time, let's start out with not resigning players back. Trey Flowers, you can get them a dime and a dozen in the free agency market. It's not a big deal. Joe Gaziano, Italian to Italian, much respect for him, but he could definitely be replaced in the free agency market and definitely in the draft and for undrafted players. Not saying he's a bad player, he's a nice depth piece, but even still, you want a depth piece to contribute a lot more than he did. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it. And by the way, he was a baller in college and averaging 7 sacks per season, so it's not like he was some slouch. So when it comes to Smith and Higgins, they're definitely practice squad members at their point in time and career at this moment. No offense to them, and you can easily replace that. So when it comes to defenders that the Atlanta Falcons should get, Calais Campbell definitely high on their list. Yes, he's gonna be 38 years old, but he still was so dominant, and it was kind of freaky to see that. So it depends if he wants to come back, and if he does, we might have a shot. And if he doesn't, then it is what it is. He's gonna be a future Hall of Famer, and we gotta respect his wishes. Now, Bud Dupree, definitely sign him back to a 1-year contract extension. Jeff Okudah as well. Yes, he did get burned a lot because most of the quarterbacks were targeting him, but he did not allow a single touchdown, so that's A+ in my books. Now, Nate Landman, absolutely, we signed him to a 2 to 3 year contract because that man really proved what he was worth. And then, of course, for Street, definitely sign him back to a 1-year contract because that was a great pickup that we did mid-season. So now let's talk about the free agency market and the NFL draft. Before I get started, I want to make this very clear. Terry Fontenot and the Atlanta Falcons can easily cut these players or trade these players anytime they want before and after the 2024 Atlanta Falcons campaign starts. So let me be very clear. So the yellow means we picked up the free agency market, and the red means that we re-signed these players. So that being said, let's get started. My first target in the free agency market is more offensive line backup because you just don't know if Jake Matthews or any of the other guys might go down. So you get Alric Jackson, who's been with the Rams since 2021. So he's pretty used to the philosophy of what Robinson wants them to do. So that's a great pickup in my opinion. So when it comes to the wide receivers, in the beginning, you only had 2 wide receivers under contract. Now we got 2 more that we re-signed, and we got our starting slot and Van Jefferson. That's a bonus. Then Cordero Hodge as wide receiver 1 on the left side as a backup. Now you got Gabe Davis on the right side starting. He did an excellent job in Buffalo for 4 seasons. He has 27 total touchdowns so far, and I think he's going to cost over or under $30 million for a 3-year or 4-year contract. Now remember, for the past 3 years, wide receivers in the free agency market has not been getting a lot besides Christian Kirk, where a lot of people were freaking out where how much you're going to spend now. But good thing that didn't happen too much. And then of course you got Marquise Brown, who's been banged up a little bit in Arizona, but he has the speed, and that's what we're looking for, a wide receiver that can go over the top and cause confusions in their own gameplay. Now, obviously, we know him from the Baltimore Ravens, where he had 1 year over 1,000 receiving yards. Fantastic job. He has 28 total touchdowns so far in his 5-year career. So as it stands right now, we can give him a 1-year prove-it deal to showcase what he's got, or give him a 2 to 3 year extension if we do want to sign him. And he should be really cheap because he's been banged up for the past 2 seasons. So I'm expecting at least $12 million to $15 million in total. So when it comes to the quarterback situation, that's going to be very interesting because I know a lot of Falcon fans have their own unique way how we should attack this quarterback situation. But here's my theory. I watched the entire Raheem Moore's introduction of him becoming our head coach. So many like other Falcon fans, and what I got out of it is that they have stated that they are a win now mode team. They're not here to rebuild. They're not here to wait. They're here to win it all. And I actually feel like this last year should have been the golden opportunity for us to get into the Super Bowl. But we blew it because of quarterback and gameplay and all yada yada, all type of situation. The defense was fired. Hopefully it could be fired this year. But why not try to make it for a run? Now, if you want to, build, for a couple of dynasties, I love the idea. But for right now, for what it's worth, where we got the pieces and talents already under contract, why not go get a Russell Wilson type of mentality quarterback play? Now, yes, you can feel one way or another with Russell Wilson, but for what I have saw and what I have gathered with a bunch of videos, a bunch of articles, and what, listening to Broncos fans, all the analysts out there, media coverage of the Broncos, it was very clear to me that they did not handle Russell Wilson with grace. Now, there's a bunch of videos you guys can watch. I encourage you to watch, especially the 2 YouTubers in Microphone and That Good Sports Broncos, where they do excellent journalism and explaining in critical details on what the situation is with the Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson. And I know the number one thing will be is, what about the contract situation? Don't worry, it's not that bad if you actually watch some of these videos where they break down the contracts and how it doesn't really hurt the Atlanta Falcons at all. And plus, think about this. If you're really that petty like me, this will stick it to Sean Payton, who I hate with a passion, because how he mishandled and mistreated Russell Wilson, where Russell Wilson is a really good guy and a great player. This would be a great middle finger to him if we get him and then somehow we can get into the Super Bowl and win it. So now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. When it comes to the Atlanta Falcons secondary, only one thing changed. Jeff Okudah is back on the screen, and so we might pick up one in free agency or in the NFL draft. So now let's talk about our front 7. In theory, if Calais Campbell does come back, he will be our starter. Now, if he doesn't, again, we'll probably have to find someone to be a starter. But for right now, at this time and day, he's going to be with us back. Great job. Street is going to be the second mentality man up. And, of course, we got Nate Landman starting at the WLB position. And then, of course, Bud Dupree is not going to be starting for us this season. He will be the backup guy. Not bad. For our 2 pickups in the free agency market, when it comes to the defense side of the ball, AJ Epinepsa definitely should be a concern for us because, in a good way, because he was the backup over in Buffalo. He's been giving them 6 sacks per season so far for the past 2 years, and he really showcased he can get after the quarterback, and we need depth pieces. And I think a 3-year contract worth $20 million up to that range should be advised. So when it comes to Grover Stewart, he's definitely one of the Indianapolis Colts Colts' best D lineman, and you gotta capitalize on that. Yes, he hit the age 30, but guess what? He's 6'4", weighs 314 pounds, and he's been playing ever since 2017, and he's just a tackle machine. And yes, the sacks might not be there in total with 9 in his career, but he's not there for sacks. He's there to eat up, defenders. He's there to stop the run game, and that's what the Atlanta Falcons last season was getting troubled at. We could not stop the run. So if you can put him in 3 technique, a 5 technique, the nose tackle position, the D-line, the outside, inside, doesn't matter where you put him, he will definitely double team somebody. That gives one of the linebacking cores a freed wide open space to get after the quarterback with those sacks. So when it comes to the 8th overall pick, I decided not to give up draft capital for future years to come or players. So I decided stick with the number 8th overall pick and get the best pass rusher that the Atlanta Falcons always seem to just miss the opportunities, and get Dallas Turner from Alabama, the linebacker. And I think he will be perfect for what the Atlanta Falcons is working with. So now let's talk about our conclusion. I know that my quarterback selection will probably piss some Falcon fans off, and I get it. Believe me, I like Justin Fields, and I also like Jalen Daniels, but the problem is how much draft capital or how much players are we going to, get rid of just to get one of these 2 quarterbacks. I also know that the Atlanta Falcons have $25 million in cap space that ranks number 14th in the NFL. So we don't have a lot to really go out and get the big names. So believe me, would I like to get all the best pass rushers, all the best interior linemen, all the best wide receiving core? And believe me, it would be awesome if we snag 1 or 2 of these guys, but I'm trying to do realistically on a budget type of situation, and I think I aced it. If you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Who do you guys want to get in the free agency market, or should we cut this player, or should we sign this player? I'm interested what you guys have to say. So on that note, what do Falcons do? Rise up. Until the next episode, show love and peace to the world, and peace.